Welcome everyone this morning. My name's Ruth Roan. I am a Growth Curve Business Advisor for SEMLEP. I have worked with SEMLEP since November. I run my own business consultancy company. I've worked with business support programs for the last 15 years, worked on a lot of grant programs, worked with a lot of businesses that have been successful in grant applications as well. So hopefully through this morning, I can use some of my knowledge and expertise to help you in your grant application journey. I'm going to hand over to my colleague now, Kelly, who will introduce herself as well.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Kelly Bowman. I am a business advisor working in the Growth Hub team. I've been working here for about 2.5 years, helped to deliver a number of SEMLEP business support programs and have quite a lot of knowledge on grants and grant applications as well. So hopefully I can add a bit of value there in terms of submitting a grant application. So should we move on to the next slide and get going?
Perfect.
Perfect. So before I start to sort of talk about the funding that's available through the Growth Curve programme, I wanted to just let you know a little bit more about it. This is one element of the Growth Curve programme. So it's made up of 3 parts, which are university-led masterclasses, a diagnostic with a business advisor, and also the grant itself. So just for anyone who hasn't already enrolled onto the programme, I wanted to mention that, so we can, obviously at the end of this, we can make contact with you if you did want to enrol, if you haven't already, and then we can send you the relevant paperwork to enrol if that's what you'd like to do. So the Growth Curve grant that's available at the moment is a revenue grant. It's up to a maximum of £10,000, so it could fund a £20,000 project. It's a 50/50 match funded grant. Obviously, commitment would be required to create at least 1 job per £5,000 worth of grant. This is a government grant, so we're working to their guidelines, and that's what they would require. So the revenue grant funding projects, if we just go to the next slide, Ruth, just to give an overview of some of the projects that could be included within this grant funding. So designing of a new website, brand consultancy, marketing campaigns, any market research or data management, specialist consultancy, external consultancy, or new software if you wanted to implement that into the business, including sort of accounting software, CRMs, and advertising for hard to fill posts, psychometric profiling and recruitment software. That's just some of the projects that it could fund, but really and ultimately it's about a project that can help you to increase sales, improve productivity to the business or processes, and create new jobs. So there could be other projects that sit outside of those 6 examples. What the grant cannot fund, we've just put some examples up here. So sort of business as usual expenses, anything that you've already purchased wouldn't be eligible, VAT, training, sort of general setup costs, or a like-for-like replacement of machinery. It'd have to be something new to the business or to the market. So that's just a few examples. But we do have a document that we can send you after the workshop, which has a bit more guidance as to what can and can't be funded within the grant. Okay, so the process of the grant application is you would submit your grant application. It would then go to our grants team, who would score the application. It would then go on to a panel. So at the panel, they look at each application on a case-by-case basis, but they're looking for certain things within the application forms. So we've just listed some here, some examples. The clarity of the proposition. So how will the funding stimulate the growth of the business? That's what it's the key area there. You know, how many jobs are going to be created and protected as well, retained. So the value for money, the impact on the business and the local economy. So I'll look at that. The need for financial support. Why are you seeking the funding? Deliverability. Now, obviously, because this programme is actually coming to an end at the end of June, timescales are quite tight. So whichever project you'd be looking to fund, it would need to be completed by the 15th of June to give us time for you to reclaim the money by the end of June when the project is finished. Sorry, Ruth, could we go back to that, just that other one, just so I could cover off the end of the slide, if that's okay. Sorry. Yeah, so just wanted to mention that, because obviously, you know, the projects and being delivered, it's just, you know, I'm keen to let you know the sort of timescales involved. So when you're submitting your application, you know, you'd need to put that the project will be delivered by the 15th of June at the latest. So unfortunately, any sort of bespoke packages that would need to be developed might obviously take you over that time scale. And the financial viability of the business as well will be looked at. So next slide. So this is just an overview of the timescales that we have to work to, and obviously yourselves if you submit an application. So the application deadline is actually the 28th of April, which I appreciate is very tight. So anybody who needs an application form, if you haven't already had one, we can send that out straight away today, so you can get working on it. And any questions that you have, you know, feel free to ask. More than happy to help and support you with that. Obviously, the grants team will score the application ahead of the panel, and the panel meeting will take place on the 11th of May. Quite shortly after that, obviously, the decision is made at panel, and then after that, you'll be notified if your application has been successful, and then the grants team will correspond with you and send you the relevant paperwork to sign. It's really, really important not to have spent any money before you've been notified that you've been successful and that you can now you know, commit to the project financially. If you pay before that, unfortunately, it would make the project ineligible. So it's really, really important just to hold off until you've had that confirmation from the grants team. Next slide. Sorry, Ruth. Oh, we're there, sorry, yeah. Okay, so just moving now on to the application form itself. It's not too large a document, but there are obviously certain sections in there that you'd need to complete. So here's just some of the headers that you'd need to focus on: business background, the project, bit detail about the project that you're wanting to fund, financials, job creation, supplier details, your business financials, and then at the end there's a checklist, which is really handy just to make sure that you're submitting. It's really important, again, because of our tight timescales, that the application is completed in full, and that all the corresponding information is there, because the grants team won't have time to sort of go backwards and forwards to ask for that additional information, unfortunately, because of the timescales. Okay, so these slides are really just to show you the level of detail that we would require within the application form. So basic details on the first section is obviously the business background. You know, how long have you been trading? What does the business do? If you can add as much detail as you can, that would be great. We don't need huge amounts though, just enough. I think the best way to sort of explain it is, you know, we may have had a conversation with you after this workshop about your project, but the panel won't have. So it's just really trying to be as clear as possible so that they don't come to their own assumptions. You know, put the level of detail in that's necessary, just so that it explains exactly who you are and what you're wanting to do. And then obviously the next section of the application is about the project itself. So again, it's really, really important to sort of really show how it's going to impact the business. So if you're able to put any, you know, increases in turnover, obviously job creation, it doesn't matter if you are replicating some of the information through the application form, it's just really embedding it into the information that it is going to create jobs, it is going to have a really positive impact on the business. You know, if you can show any sort of numbers or percentage increases, that sort of thing, that's really, really useful. And it's quite sort of impactful as well. So when you're reading through, obviously they're going to have lots of applications, it just stands out to the grants team and the grant panel. Okay, and then, yeah, a bit about the financials. So if you have already completed an enrolment form, we will have some of your financial information in there. So it's the same level of detail that you'd need to put into the application form. And then when you submit your application, we would just need you to send your last full year's accounts as well, just to go with that. And again, I know this probably sounds like it's an obvious thing, but just double check that obviously the numbers correlate with your document that you're sending in as well. We don't want anybody on the panel sort of querying anything, delaying their decision making. So just double check that numbers are matching in the documents.
Pardon me.
But yeah, the project completion date, as I've already mentioned, is the 15th of June. So it's important that obviously everything is paid and ready to claim back and completed by that date.
Can I ask a quick question? Do we need 1 year of accounts to apply?
Yes.
Cool. That's probably us out. We're 9 months in. We've got numbers, but not first year accounts.
Okay. I mean, I can just double check that. I haven't worked with a client that hasn't had the years. I can double check that for you. If you can, let me think. What was the name of the company?
Ellesby Wealth Management.
I'll drop you an email after, and I'll just double check with our grants team just to make sure that I'm correct in what I'm saying there. Fabulous.
Cool.
Yes. So again, the last bullet point: would the project go ahead without the funding? Some of the clients that I've worked with have said no. Some of them said yes, but it's going to delay the growth of the business. So don't be afraid to say, you know, it will happen, but it's just going to be delayed because that is, you know, that's live. Of course, you're going to want to continue your growth, but it's not going to be straight away. So that's one of the areas there that you'd need to complete.
I have a question too, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Iona Capra here from Roman Screening Ltd. I have been refused for an extension to the grant, to a previous grant, and been told that I can apply for this one. So Roman Screening had a small grant last year. We applied for an extension, but pardon me, the answer was no, because apparently it was a new project, not extension to the old one. So I wonder if we already had a small grant in the past. Can we apply for this one?
Yes.
Good, thank you very
But
much.
should we have a conversation after this? I'll make contact with you. And we can chat it through.
Please.
Yeah, perfect.
Please.
Okay, I'll give you a call after the workshop.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay.
So you.
Obviously, in terms of job creation, I've mentioned that for every £10,000 of grant, it's asked that you create a role. Now, obviously, that's not going to be by the end of June. They wouldn't expect that, but in terms of evidence, it would just be to show a job description that you've created, that you have plans to employ somebody. And obviously, if you have a timeline that you can put in, that would be really useful. Obviously, we can discuss that in more detail going forward, obviously, if your grant's approved. But I think initially what the grants team and the panel would be looking for in terms of evidence would be a job description, whether it be recruiting in-house or, you know, in terms of, you know, upskilling and getting a new employee that's already working for the organisation, or an external. But that's also an area of the application form as well, the job creation.
Hi, Kelly. Could I just ask a quick question on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if the project deadline is the 15th of June, when would could we take an employee on before the project deadline, or would it need to be after the deadline?
As far as I'm aware, I think it'd be a lot to ask. If you're able to, fantastic. If you're not able to, and you have plans to employ somebody, you have a job description, you are going out to recruit, you know, who's to say, you know, you can't recruit the right skills at that particular moment in time. But as long as you're actively looking to recruit somebody, I think that's what the grant team would be looking for.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, next slide.
I have a quick question related to that. So if you've already made an offer to somebody and they're working their notice and due to join you, would that be the same even if they were joining you after the 15th of June?
I think if you're not already employing them, then that would be okay.
It's contract sign date, isn't it? Contract sign date. So
Yeah,
they haven't signed a contract yet, have they?
Yes, because obviously they had to sign the contract before they handed in their notice.
Okay.
We could check.
And
for you on
when
that.
was that? When did that take place?
Approximately a month and a half ago.
Let me find out that for you. Okay. It may not be eligible, but I'll ask the question. It's worth asking. What's the name of your organisation?
Landscape, Land and Property.
Let me come back to you on that if that's okay.
Yes, of course. Thanks.
Fabulous. Excellent.
Could I ask a question on that as well, please?
Yeah.
So does that mean then, you said before about not spending any money until you've had a definite decision. Would
Yeah.
you recommend not putting out any job adverts until a decision's been made as well?
I mean, if you need to recruit, are you looking to recruit now anyway? Do you have plans to grow
Well,
the
that's
business?
it. Yeah, I do have
Yeah.
plans to grow the business, but I've put together some job descriptions, but I've not put them out yet. Do I kind of sit on it for a few more weeks is what I'm thinking, so that it's eligible?
What do you think, Ruth? I don't think it's going to harm if you're already out looking, but you haven't actually physically recruited that person yet.
No.
I don't know. What do you think? I've not come across this before.
Well, I had one client recently and they got their grant. They had already put their adverts out, but they hadn't recruited. So ultimately, part of this project is supporting the growth of your business, which you're doing at the moment already anyway. So I would suggest that you could, by having this grant, by doing this project, you will be creating a job. If you don't get the grant, the project's going to happen anyway, and you're going to create the job. So I would say that you're okay to put it out. It's just if you've already recruited, they're already in post or already in contract. It's there's some of the grey areas that we just need to double check on with that. But as far as I'm aware, also we're on tight timescales. So if anyone questioned that, would say, well, actually, we wanted to try and get you a job output for this grant funding. So we've put the job ad out there.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, one more thing. If so at the beginning you mentioned that it was not just about recruiting jobs but retaining. Presumably if you were to position it in the grant application that you had recruited, but in order to sustain that employee beyond their 6-month probationary period or whatever it is, would that be a valid argument if you were looking to put money behind marketing and driving the business in order to generate the business for that employee to work on?
Good
That's a very good
question.
question. And I must apologise now because our finance officer is supposed to be on this call this morning, but she's got a hospital appointment, which she would be able to answer that instantly. Yeah. Some of this is very grey area for us. The one thing I would say is with this grant, if you are looking to employ, say in 3 months' time, for example, based on this project, let's include that rather than previous people, because ultimately there's more value in that. So I think we need to have individual discussions with you about how we can be how we can the best way forward with that in your application. I think what I want to make sure is I wouldn't want an application not to go through based on us doing something wrong in the job creation section. So I think it's very business dependent on that. So if we have a conversation about that, we can look at the best route for you, for your business. But ultimately that person's not in post yet. Whilst they've signed a contract, they could turn around and say that they're not joining anymore, or you could have a cash flow issue within your business and suddenly not be able to take them on. So it is quite a grey area, which I think we just need clarification on. That's okay.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Good morning. Kelly and Ruth. Kelly, nice to see you again. Thanks for
Oh,
supporting
hi,
the past.
nice to see you, Oliver.
I have a quick question. So we have a workshop where we fabricate things, and one of our projects that we're considering at the moment is upgrading a load of tools and making some like capital investment there, some like capex that would assist us in doing more work, greater quantity and greater frequency, and larger scale. Would that be considered an eligible project, or would it have to be service-based spend?
I think for the purpose of this grant application, it's revenue funding only, so it wouldn't cover capital expenditure. But at the end of this presentation, I am going to cover off future grant funding, and there is some capital investment funding coming through SEMLEP in the next sort of 6 to 8 weeks. So I think if you've got some service-based projects which are going to support the workshop growth in the equipment, let's go for this grant. But there are also some capital grants coming through, which we'll discuss further on the workshop, which I think will be relevant to the project you're talking about.
That's fantastic. I do have a couple of different projects. It's just the order of them would now, based on what you've just said, would probably change, if that makes sense. So
absolutely. And we just want to make sure we're maximising opportunities. So for you and your business, really. So yeah, no, that's great.
Thank you very much.
Great. So just to finish off, obviously, the last sort of part of the application is to put your suppliers in. We'd need 3 quotes per item that you're looking to purchase. They need to go along with the application form, and obviously you'd identify which supplier would be your preferred supplier, and that's your choice. Even if it's sort of more expensive, it's whoever you wish to go along with. So that would need to go with the application form as well.
Kelly, could I ask a quick question about that? The project that I am looking to develop, it's a software project, and it has 3 items within it, but it's basically a kind of an admin system, a cloud-based data layer, and then a mobile app front end. But we would obviously the 3 distinct items, but we would most definitely be looking for one supplier to provide all of those items. So would that just be I would just need like one quote for the entire project?
If one supplier can provide all 3 items, that's absolutely fine. You would just need another 2 quotes for a company that could also do the same.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Lovely. Next slide. And then, yeah, just going on to the business financials, so a bit more detail there from the enrolment form. But again, just making sure that they match up with the information that you're sending through with your application form to go along with that. And then, yeah, at the end of the application form, they will have a checklist. So just make sure, double check that everything is in full. All of your supporting evidence, your financial documentation, your quotes is all there with the application form. As I say, because normally there would be a little bit more leeway with time, and if there were any queries or anything was missing, you'd have an opportunity to submit some more detail. But because we are so tight, it's going to be unlikely that we're going to be able to sort of go backwards and forwards with you. So it's just really important that you submit everything in full when you submit your application form. Just double check, through the guidance notes that you've ticked all the boxes and you know what you're doing with that. And then, yeah, the deadline for applications is the 28th of April, which is next Friday.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. That's great. So Kelly's just talked. Is there anything else to add there, Kelly?
No, I think that's everything. I'm going to attach the application form and guidance notes into the chat box so that you have that. You can have a look in a bit more detail. Obviously, any questions, we'll have our details at the end of the workshop, so feel free to make contact with us. But we're going to be reaching out to you after anyway, just for some feedback and from sort of additional work that you might want to do with us. So you'll have our details there. But I'm going to do that now. I'll add those into the chat.
Brilliant, thanks, Kelly. So Kelly's just talked us through the grant application for the revenue funding for SEMLEP, and obviously there's very tight timelines on that next Friday. So if you are looking at doing that, we'll chat to you individually, and also, you know, make sure you get that in. What I'm going to talk about the next part of the workshop is really general points about grant funding, on what's good and what's bad, and then again, like I mentioned, there are some future grant opportunities coming through SEMLEP as well that I'm going to cover off too. Has anyone got any quick questions about that grant application form before we move forward? Yeah. Do you want to turn yourself off mute?
I apologize. Sorry.
That's okay.
Ayona Capro here from Roman's Cleaning. As you can see, I have to apologize. I'm on site. I'm working. There is machinery around me, so I'm sorry about the putting on mode. Ruth, is it possible the crowdfunding to fund machinery? Because I understand it's software and adverts and everything, but is it possible to fund machinery?
For the purpose of this grant that we're talking about here, it's a revenue only grant through the growth curve, and the deadlines are 28. But I'm going to talk about in the next few slides about some capital funding that's coming through SEMLEP, which will be able to fund machinery. So okay. I think it's about positioning your business ready to access that capital funding if that's something that you're looking at moving forward. Thank you. I think we'll cover that off, and we can talk to people individually about the best way forward as well on that. Okay,
appreciate
thanks.
It. Thank you.
So no, that's absolutely fine. So just want to share some tips and hints on application forms generally, because ultimately we've talked about the SEMLEP one, but there are lots of other grant funding opportunities out there for you, for your business, and for your business growth. And I think it's really key that we give you some tips around that. Most of the grant funding that's out there is public funding. It tends to come in peaks and troughs. You know, we have seen over the last 3 years more funding than I've ever seen in the history of business support. And I've been in it probably around 15 years. During COVID, as businesses, we saw the most funding opportunities that we were faced with, which was very good. Ultimately, we're all coming through the other end, and now ultimately there's not as much funding coming through. One of the reasons for that is the European funding is coming to an end. So obviously we've seen a bit of a shortage there, but there are new paths that funding is coming through. So we will see over the next 12 to 18 months new funding opportunities through government departments, through local government, through universities. You know, we've got Cranfield University on our patch, which has a huge amount of funding opportunities around specific projects like environmental and sustainability. So, you know, make sure that you're looking at the best funding options for your business. The local enterprise partnerships and growth hubs. So obviously you're here today as part of SEMLEP. So make sure that you are getting our newsletters to find out more about what's going on. And there are other local organisations delivering public funding as well. So make sure you do your research on what's available for your business. What I would say to any business is, don't put a round peg in a square hole. I get so many businesses coming to see me trying to mould their project based on the funding requirements. What we want to do is find the funding project that suits your business and the project that you want to fund. I think that's really key for me as a business advisor. I want you to get the best funding that you can. Grant funding is very often specific, so it is ultimately about business growth, which is the one that we're talking about this morning through the growth curve. Innovation, you know, innovation is very generalist, so we can pretty much be very creative on that. But I think a lot of the money that's coming through currently is around innovation. Innovate UK have got a huge amount of funding there as well. So they are one of the main deliverers across the UK in the sense of public funding. Net zero, and they can be specific to business size, turnover, number of employees. Again, recovery and growth, economic shocks and capital investment as well. So ultimately, these are some of the things that other funding pots will look to fund. Generally, there's match funding. Again, this project is a 50-50% match. Some are 30-70, some are 25-75. Very often the match needs to come from private investment because the grant funding is coming from the public investment. We need to get that match. So again, make sure that you have that match available. You've got that cash flow within your organisation or access to that cash flow as well. Typically match funding requirements are up to 70 to 80% and rarely below 50%. We did see through COVID 100% grants. I don't believe we'll ever see grants like that again for businesses. We are working hard with banks and other financial establishments to look at opportunities for them to supply match funding as well for projects. So banks are on board and they know that businesses need access to this match funding. So, you know, please do talk to financial establishments to see if you can access match for any grant funds that you're looking to apply for. They are very often, there are requirements and certain outputs to be produced as a result of the funding. European funded projects predominantly were very job created heavy. So we saw a lot of grants, you know, you were having to create jobs, safeguarding jobs, launching new products and services, so around your innovation and business growth. Percentage of private sector investments, how much money you're going to put into the project and the growth of your business. You know, very often I'll talk to a company and they'll say, well, I don't want to risk any of my own money. And I'm like, but you want the public sector to risk their investment. So you need to show that you've got belief, you've got faith within the project that you're looking to fund and the growth within your business. And then the ton of CU2, so saved as a result of the project. So I do believe moving forward over the next 5 to 10 years, a lot of outputs on grants and business growth will be around the sustainability and the environmental impact as much as the financial output and investment there. Writing a strong application, you know, make sure absolutely read the grant guidance. You know, our grant guidance is brilliant. It's step-by-step information on what you need to put in every single section. You know, make sure you read the grant spec in detail, who's eligible, what's your size, your sector, what match funding requirement, capital revenue and purpose. We see so many grant applications for a number of different projects, both ours and external ones that we support, that get thrown out instantly because the business has failed to evidence that they match the criteria. Now, they very often will match the criteria, but unfortunately can't evidence it. Be clear and concise when providing your company background. So that's really important. Kelly covered some of this. You know, what are your ambitions? Demonstrate your skills and experience within the sector that you're working in. You guys are experts in what you do. We need to know that. The panel have no idea very often who you are, what you do, and it's making sure that you've got that. Provide accurate and detailed financial information. Again, Kelly's covered that and the requirements that we need. You will need to supply your latest accounts that you've got. If they're audited, that's great. If they're not, then that's absolutely fine, but we will need to see a copy of your latest accounts to go along with your application form that you submit. And then understand the purpose of the grant and relate your project and its intended outcomes to that purpose. I always say to all the businesses that I work with is the grant panel are not your customers. Okay, they are a grant panel that are assessing the value of them investing in your business. So we need to make sure that we understand the purpose of what that grant panel want to get out from funding your business. And again, Kelly covered some of that in what she spoke about. The procurement, so understand the procurement requirement from the scheme. So again, about the quotes, advertising of opportunities, specifications. So that's just, you know, reiterating what Kelly said about the 3 quotes. We get so many people put an application in and they haven't submitted the 3 quotes. You know, we are on such tight time restraints on this project. We haven't got time to go back to people after the 28th of April and say, sorry, you haven't submitted enough quotes. You know, we haven't got time to do that. So you need to make sure you've got all the right information and you submit that. Try your best to answer any strange questions about things like, you know, state aid. If you very often you might look at these and think, I have no idea. what this means. You know, you have access to myself, to Kelly, to the other guys within the business support team. Drop us an email, drop us a call, we can answer that. You know, if there's any tough questions that you're thinking, actually, I don't know the answer to that, make sure you just double check with us or go back to the guidance notes. It's just a 5-minute chat, isn't it? And you'll have answered the question right, rather than not putting the right information in. Demonstrate why you need the funding. So like we've said, you know, what additionality it will bring to the business, what growth, what benefit it will generate, you know, but overall, what benefit will it generate across the South East Midlands as well? You know, think about that in the sense of the wider benefit of your project to the business landscape. Identify any risks in delivering your project. So, you know, any project comes with its risks. You know, it's really important to identify those, but to identify how you will overcome those. So there might be design, procurement, delays, demand. You know, we've had major issues with businesses with grants, especially where they can't get the equipment, or they can't get the service in the timescales that we're asking them to do that. And make sure, you know, obviously the timescales are so tight on this project. Make sure that you can get those services completed and purchased within the timescales. And again, like I said, ask for help. If you need help, seek clarity and guidance. You know, we are here to help, and you know, make sure you do take advantage of that over the next few days. I just wanted to do a quick example here. So I've got an example A and I've got an example B. So I'm going to go through example A and I'm going to go through example B, and I'm going to get you to just put, you know, quickly in the chat, or which example do you think will be funded and which example do you think won't. So example A, they are world leaders in lots of things, in lots of industries. That's what they've said in their company description. You can see the financials there are back in 2019. They've got a turnover of 100 grand. They haven't told me their net profit. They've got employment costs of 30,000, but they employ 10 people. So, you know, is that a justifiable amount? The project they want is they need to continue to pay for monthly marketing fees. They are going to safeguard one job, and they've got 100k in the bank. So are we going to fund that? If that goes to panel, do we think the panel is going to fund that project? Yes or no? If you just put yes or no in the chat, that would be great. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And anyone got any ideas as to why that wouldn't be funded? Please feel free to.
Wish I could employ 10 people for 30 grand a year.
Absolutely. Yeah, so do I. I wish I could employ 2 people for 30 grand. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Any other thoughts on that?
The accounts are too old. 2019.
Yeah, accounts are too old. Yeah.
They don't want to spend their own money as well.
Yeah, not willing to spend anything.
Yeah. Yeah, they've got the money in the account, haven't they? The one thing I will say about that is some of you will have money in your account, and you might be thinking, are they not going to fund us because of that? What I would say is, whilst we do have good levels of cash flow, that cash flow has already been allocated to other areas of the business. That's a quick and easy way of getting around that, because very often you might have healthy cash flow, but ultimately it's allocated through the 12-month period of your business. So that could be an additional note that you might want to put on if that question arises. You've already answered it. Don't know whether you've got anything else to add to that, Kelly, but that's what I generally get businesses to do. Yeah. Okay. Fab. And then example B. So this is a manufacturer of a bleed control cabinet for the blue light industry. They're developing a new system which helps automate stock control through real-time systems. So it's an online system that they're looking the software to promote. The outputs, it's new to the market. It's going to create 2 new jobs. They're applying because they're unable to grow the business without this. They need some support, you know. Again, the accounts are up to date, March 22. You can see their turnover, their net profit. You can see their employment costs are relative to the number of employees that they have. And again, they will get 3 quotes. So is there anything on here that people think, do you think this is going to be funded? Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything that you would say might not on there, or is there anything else they could have added?
Quite a good profit.
You're sorry.
Quite a good profit, I'm saying.
Yeah, quite a good profit. So again, for me, that whole sentence of that profit being allocated to other parts of the business development would be a good thing to add in there, because the panel might come back and say, well, actually, you know, they've got a good amount of money there. You know, what are we going to do with that? So I think that it just adding those little sentences in there is really helpful. Okay, fab. I think someone got dinging in the background. Is that?
It's mine, sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah, fab. Thank you. Yeah, so that's just a quick snapshot of a project which is quite succinct. It's got the relevant information. They've gone through the process. They've read the guidance notes and they've put the right bits in. So that is more likely to get passed by the panel than the other application form. When you're searching for grants, there's lots of different places that you can access grants. We do have a page on our SEMLEP website, our Growth Hub website. You can see this page here. So if you go onto our website, you can find a grant. There is also tools like Grant Finder. There are lots of subscriptions that you can sign up to, like gov.uk. There are lots of different things that you'll get alerts through to find out the grants that are available for businesses. What I would say is there are lots of organisations like Innovate UK, the British Bank, SEMLEP, local universities. Make sure you sign up to their newsletters, because that's where you will find out about grant funding. They will launch new programmes in their newsletters. So do you get your monthly, 2-weekly, weekly newsletter from your local authority? If you don't, I suggest that you sign up to that, because a lot of grant funding moving forward will come through your local authority for businesses. So you make sure you sign up to that. Do that today. That could be a good action from this morning to do that. If you want any advice or guidance on that, then please do speak to Callie or myself or the business advisor that you're already working with SEMLEP. The other tool that I would say is we're really lucky that within Northamptonshire, we've got the BIPC Centre within the library, so the Business Intelligence Resource Centre there, and they do have lots of grant tools there as well. So make sure that you use that facility if you can. It's completely free. And it's a hidden gem, really, in the sense of opportunities for research and information for your business. So they have plenty of tools there too.
So just one quick thing, Ruth, whilst you're on this subject, I have spoken to clients in the past that have paid companies to help them source a grant. And I was just going to say, please avoid at all costs, because they don't get the grant and they've paid out £150, £200 to get someone to do it for them. And it's literally just to register them on a system anyway. So just be really, really careful about some of those ones.
Yeah, and those ones, interestingly, so there is one that I get through, and if you pay an upgrade, you have to pay £50 a month, but they will send you, and if you just copy and paste the title of the grant into Google, it will come up with where it's from anyway. So that's a good little tip there.
I think your advice is really, really worthwhile, Ruth. Just signing up to all the newsletters, local authority, like you say, BIPC, absolutely. Because some of them get, you know, small sort of pots of money that might fit with the project that you're wanting to fund. So yeah, just worth keeping abreast of everything that's going on outside.
Absolutely. And some projects can even match fund each other, you know, so it's looking at real opportunities for that too. So again, any problems with that, or you can't find that page on our website, you know, please do contact us and we can share that. Common mistakes. So this is, unfortunately, Alison, our finance officer, couldn't be here this morning, but I did ask her to share some of the common mistakes and some of her own hints and tips, because she deals with all these applications. So any of you that put in a growth curve revenue application will land on Alison's desk. So she shared her common mistake. She says, so often it's missing information. Really, really important. There's documents missing, there's missing answers to questions or insufficient information given. We are all really, really busy. And things like this get put to the bottom of the pile, and then we see the deadline alert coming into our calendar and we think, oh my goodness, I need to get that in quick. Just get someone else to look over it for you. You know, that's really, really key and really important. It's not a hard application form, this one. It is actually really relatively simple, not a huge amount of questions to answer, and they're quite straightforward. So just get someone else to review it, someone else to quickly look over it, whether that's in your organisation or externally, or speak to your business advisor. Obviously, we're very tight on time now. So if Kelly and I suddenly had 20 applications to read through, we probably wouldn't get to that. But, you know, ultimately, you know, get someone to have a quick read of it to make sure you've included everything. Insufficient evidence of need. I think this is a really big thing. You know, why do you need to fund this project? What impact is this project going to have on your business? Is it going to stop your growth? Is it going to stop your development? You know, very often people don't justify why they are doing what they're doing. I think that's really important. So make sure we really evidence that need of this service, software, marketing, whatever it might be, to the growth and development of your business. I think that's really, really important. Poor planning. So again, people haven't thought through, you know, we get applications in with different timescales. So they'll say that we'll get an application form in to say the project ends on the 15th of June, and then the quotation that's coming from one of their suppliers will say the project's ended in August 2023. Now, straight away, that will get thrown out from panel. So make sure there's consistency across both messages and both communication. Okay. So I think that that's really, really important. So make sure that you put that planning, and everything is talking to each other properly as well. So everything reflects. And ultimately, for the purpose of this one, everything needs to say delivered and ended by the 14th of June. Not clear what the project will do. What are you asking the funder to pay for? You know, like Kelly mentioned right at the beginning of this workshop, the panel have never met you. They don't know anything about your business. Make sure you're clear and concise with what your business is, what you offer, what you're asking the funder to pay for. I think it's just very straightforward in that respect there. We get lots of applications that are very fluffy. They're lots of pages long, but by the time you've read it, you've still not got any idea what the project is that's funded. And then we get others that are 2 paragraphs in each section, and they're clear and concise, and it's brilliant. We can fund that instantly. So don't think more is better. Actually, we just want clear, straightforward communication in the application form. Our grant team's hints and tips are here. Again, pretty much what Kelly and I spoke about this morning, but it is read the guidance notes. You know, make sure it's really, really important to read those guidance notes. Is this the right fund for your project? Don't squeeze it if it won't fit. Like I said, don't put the round peg in the square hole, you know, just because there's a bit of funding there available. We want to make sure that it's the right fund for you. Clearly state what you want to do and why. Complete all sections of the application and submit all required documents. You know, a lot of people don't even date it at the end and sign it. They do the whole application and then don't sign and date it. It's just clearly, or there's any boxes to tick that says, I agree for my information to be shared, or I agree that this information is, you know, correct at the time that I wrote the application form. Just silly little things like that. In a normal situation, we would go back to businesses and say, okay, sorry, that's not been completed. But because of the tight timescales, we won't have time to go back to businesses. So just make sure that you're doing that. Allow enough time. So make sure you've got enough time to complete that. Now, I know Kelly and I are sitting here saying you've got to the 28th of April, so you haven't got a huge amount of time, and that is time constraints. But make sure you clear some space in your diary if you are going to make these applications, to give yourself that time. Make sure the amount of funding is correct against the quotes. That's another thing. We get funding applied for X amount, and then when the quote comes in, it's a different amount. And they're the sorts of things that our finance team and our grants team will pick up really, really quickly. So make sure that they match. Please make sure the financial information section ties up with your accounts. So you know this section that we spoke about before, which had what you earned last year, this year, and the following year. Don't say you know, your turnover this year is 300,000 when you've sent in your audited accounts and it's only 56,000. You know, we make sure it correlates to what you're doing. And when we're talking about predicted turnover and net profit, make sure you justify that as well. You know, if there was a business that was suddenly, you know, turning over 200,000 now, but next year they were going to be 2 million, where's the justification there? We'd want to know, you know, what is that? And I have had that before, and that's because a business has acquired another company. So it is possible, but we just need justification of that to make sure we know why that growth is so rapid. Or if there isn't growth, why that growth isn't happening. And very often it's because of reinvestment within a business. So a lot of the time we'll see a business with fast growth for 3 years, it will stabilize and maybe even decline for the next 3, because actually there's the internal investment in the business to then take its next leap to grow. So it's just all these justifications that we need to talk about within the financial section. So just any additional bits of information are really helpful. Again, like I said, get somebody else to read your application before you submit it. I think that's really, really key. The one thing I will say quickly, Kelly and I have both tried to put the application form in the chat, and for some reason it won't let us. Once we've stopped recording, we'll see if it will let us do that again. But if it doesn't, we have everybody that's attended this morning, so you will get sent that straight away after the workshop to give you as much time as possible, along with the other forms that we've spoken about as well. So just to let everybody know, we have been trying to put it into the chat, but it just won't let us at the moment. I just wanted to share some stories here, the value of support and guidance. These aren't businesses that I've worked with directly, but they are ones that SEMLEP have successfully funded. We've got that on there, you know, red occasions. SEMLEP gave us the confidence to invest in and grow our business. We've got SEMLEP support has equipped us to grow. It's allowed us to open up to a different sector of customer. For us, that's key. The ongoing support is really, really good. It's really comforting. You know, everyone would like to get funding, but it's the business support and help and advice and guidance, which is really, really important. And I just want to reiterate that actually, whilst the grant deadline is the 28th of April, our business support is available until the end of June on this project, and moving forward will still be available through SEMLEP. So make sure you take advantage of the free support that's there. You know, all of the team, we run our own businesses or have run our own businesses before. We've got a wealth of knowledge. You know, I would say we're a bit of an intelligence resource for businesses. So what's available to you and your business that you haven't got time to find out about and resource, we know that, you know, we do find out what's going on with the local authorities, the universities, the national funding opportunities that are there. So take advantage of not only the grant support that's there, but again, the business support as well. I think that's really, really key. So if you haven't already got a business advisor allocated to you, which I know quite a few of you have, because I'm working with some of you already, but if you haven't, we'll be in contact, and please do work with us, because I think there's lots of opportunities for growth with the support that we offer. One of the big slides that I'm sure you've all been looking forward to this morning is new funding programmes for spring 2023, and we're really excited to be able to talk about these. You know, we've had a lot of cloak and dagger messages over the last couple of months about there's funding coming, but we don't know what it looks like. But this slide just landed in Kelly and my inbox late yesterday, so it's hot off the shelf for us as well. There are 2 types of grants that are coming through SEMLEP. There's a resilience and innovation grant, and that's up to £50,000 capital grant. So for the couple of queries that we had there on equipment, so it's capital only, these grants that we're talking about right now, and it's 50% of total project value. So if you've got a piece of machinery or equipment that you want to fund, it's £100,000, you could get up to 50% of that, which is phenomenal if you think about it, in the sense of freeing up £50,000 cash flow within your business. I think that's a real opportunity. The business needs to be focused on growth, resilience, and innovation. So they are the 3 key areas. And like we've said through all of this, talk to a business advisor, because we can be very creative about how we evidence growth, how we evidence resilience, and how we evidence innovation within your business. Because for me, growth, resilience, and innovation are different depending on the business that you run. It's not going to look the same. So, you know, it's very different independently, and we can make sure that you get that across in your application form. This is likely to be launched by June 2023. So I would expect to see the end of this programme, which ends at the end of June, and the launch of the new programme. So looking at end of June, early July for this. But again, sign up to SEMLEP's newsletter, the Growth Hub's newsletter, because as soon as this launches, you will get that information. If you are working with a business advisor as well, they will keep you up to date with what's available to you. So they should let you know if they think it's relevant for you as well. The other pot of funding is the Growing Innovation Fund, and this is more money. So this is a bigger pot of funding that you can apply for. So these are grants of between £100,000 and £300,000. So a huge amount of money, and that's capital grants. There is an expectation that businesses will provide match funding for this. We don't know what percentage that will be at the moment. So we will share that as soon as possible, but there will be some match expected. This is aligned with innovation, commercialisation of ideas, and decarbonisation. So they are the three key areas that bigger capital grant will cover. So when we're thinking, and when you're thinking about the growth of your business, and I know one of the businesses that spoke this morning mentioned about prioritising different projects within their company. Again, sit down with the business advisor, have your diagnostic, have your strategy session, because they'll be able to help you look at your business over the next 12 months and plan out at what point you will look at applying for these different grants based on the plan of action and growth for your business. So I think that's really, really key. It's likely to be launched in June again, and the guidance and criteria to be confirmed. So again, what I will say is that over my time with SEMLEP this time, and I have worked with them previously as well, and I'm sure Kelly will reiterate this, the grant guidance hasn't changed majorly. The application hasn't changed. So it will be very similar to this application and maybe application forms that you've completed in the past. So again, going through this process is really, really key. A referral to other grant finance providers. I've spoken about those. So we've said, you know, sign up to the newsletters, go on to the other workshops. And again, we've also got the Midlands Engine Investment Fund there as well. So sign up to their newsletters to find out more about what they are offering too.